Welcome to History Unveiled. Today we're delving deep into one of the Amazon's most enigmatic legends, the myth of Jurupari. This is a foundational tale among indigenous Amazonian tribes that blends creation, loss, and a dramatic return. In our video, we'll trace Jurupari's journey from miraculous birth to mysterious disappearance and eventual reappearance, examine how his myth shapes cultural rituals and social order, and compare his story with other, lost, or hidden peoples' myths from around the world. For centuries, indigenous communities, especially those from the Tupi-Guarani linguistic family and their neighbors, have passed down the story of Jurupari orally. Early ethnographers such as Count Ermanno Stradelli recorded the myth in the late 19th century, ensuring that this profound narrative survived the onslaught of colonial pressures and cultural transformation. In today's episode, we invite you on an immersive journey into the heart of Amazonian mythology and its global echoes. Let's begin with the core narrative of Jurupari. This myth is not a single, fixed tale. Rather, it is a fluid story told in various versions by different tribes. Yet several core elements remain constant: a miraculous birth, an abrupt disappearance, and a triumphant return that transforms the community. According to indigenous tradition, Jurupari is born from a union steeped in cosmic symbolism. In one widely cited version, his mother is QC, a figure associated with the Pleiades. QC becomes pregnant not through ordinary means but by consuming the juice of a sacred fruit such as the mapati or pihikan, which imbues her with divine fertility. This mysterious conception is sometimes portrayed as an incestuous or symbolic union with a sun or thunder deity, linking Jurupari directly to the celestial and elemental forces of nature. In some versions, Jurupari is even identified with the sun, reflecting his radiant and life-giving power. The birth of Jurupari is marked by supernatural events. In one version of the myth, his mother undergoes a painful labor without the natural means for birth, a symbolic void often filled by the intervention of a fish or another creature. This piercing by a fish is not an accident. It is a ritual act that signifies the integration of the water element, a reminder of the river's sacred role in Amazonian life. Such dramatic circumstances underscore that Jurupari's arrival on Earth is not simply human birth, but the manifestation of divine mystery. After his miraculous birth, Jurupari's story takes an unexpected turn. As the legend goes, when the time came for him to begin his role as a teacher and a lawgiver among the people, he suddenly disappeared. The reasons for his vanishing are many. Some tribes say he was called back by the gods, others that he retreated into the jungle to acquire further wisdom. His disappearance creates a void in the community, leaving the people both longing for his return and fearful of the unknown forces that had taken him away. This moment of disappearance has been interpreted as a symbolic separation, a passage into a liminal space between life and death, the known and the mysterious. It also served as a powerful metaphor for the loss of indigenous knowledge amid colonial disruption. The sudden absence of Jurupari left behind a culture grappling with its own identity and the need to preserve the wisdom he represented. 15 years or more after his disappearance, the myth tells us that Jurupari reappears in a dramatic return. Under the light of a full moon or during a sacred festival, he emerges once more, transformed, wiser, and imbued with the power to restore order. His reappearance is often linked to the renewal of life and the reaffirmation of social order, as he brings with him not only his presence but also a sacred instrument, the Jurupari flute. This flute is no ordinary instrument. It is believed to be the embodiment of Jurupari's spirit, his voice through which he continues to communicate with his people. When the flute is played, it produces sounds that echo through the jungle, carrying within the memory of the divine and the promise of rebirth. The return of Jurupari symbolizes the re-establishment of balance within the community, an affirmation that even after loss and darkness, the light of knowledge and order can return. Thus, the narrative arc of Jurupari, from birth through disappearance to eventual return, mirrors the eternal cycles of nature, the death and rebirth of the seasons, the ebb and flow of rivers, and the transformative power of loss and renewal. Beyond its captivating narrative, the myth of Jurupari plays a critical role in the cultural and ritual life of Amazonian tribes. It is not merely a story told around a fire, it is a living, breathing part of society that regulates social order, teaches sacred knowledge, and marks the passage from childhood to adulthood. In many Amazonian communities, particularly among the Tupi and Tucano peoples, the myth of Jurupari is integrated into a secret men's cult. Within these groups, the sacred knowledge associated with Jurupari is reserved exclusively for initiated males. The myth serves as both a guide and a boundary. It delineates who may know the deepest secrets of the forest and its spiritual laws, and it reinforces the gendered division of sacred knowledge. For example, during male initiation ceremonies, often occurring when boys reach adolescence, young initiates are introduced to the secrets of the jungle. They learn how to craft sacred instruments, most notably the Jurupari flute, made from the pashuba palm. This flute is not only a musical instrument, it is a repository of ancestral memory, a device through which the voices of the dead and the wisdom of the gods are transmitted. During these rituals, women are traditionally excluded. This exclusion underscores a historical tension within the myth, one where the sacred is confined to a specific subset of society. The myth itself, in some versions, explains that women once had dominion over certain aspects of ritual knowledge. However, as the narrative evolved, men appropriated this power, creating a duality where Jurupari's return also symbolized the transfer of control from a matriarchal to a patriarchal order. Such changes in ritual practice reveal the dynamic ways in which myths are used to both preserve and reshape social hierarchies. The ritual of Jurupari is multifaceted. On one level, it is a celebration of life and a renewal of the community's bond with nature. The playing of the sacred flute, the rhythmic dance, and the chanting all serve to align the community with the cosmic order. The ritual is structured, with specific phases: purification, instruction, and celebration, each designed to integrate the initiate into the sacred knowledge of the group. Moreover, these rituals also function as a form of social control. By regulating who may access secret knowledge, the myth reinforces established power structures. Initiates are not only taught the practical skills needed for survival, such as identifying medicinal plants or navigating the dense jungle, but are also inculcated with moral lessons. They learn, for instance, that the jungle must be respected and that defiance of its sacred laws can lead to calamity. In one telling, when a woman named Anui defies the prohibition and attempts to learn the sacred rituals, she is punished harshly by Jurupari, whose wrath brings storms and chaos upon the community. This punitive episode is remembered as a cautionary tale, underscoring that the sacred knowledge of the jungle is not a right but a responsibility granted only to those deemed worthy. Over time, the cult of Jurupari has also adapted to external pressures. With colonial expansion and missionary efforts aiming to suppress indigenous traditions, the secret rituals of Jurupari became symbols of cultural resistance. By maintaining these rites in secrecy, the indigenous peoples not only preserved their sacred knowledge but also asserted their right to self-determination in the face of external domination. Central to the Jurupari cult is the sacred flute. Carved from the trunk of the pashuba palm, the flute is imbued with deep symbolism. Its sound is said to be the voice of Jurupari himself, a direct connection to the divine. When the flute is played, it is believed to open a channel between the physical world and the realm of spirits. In a sense, the flute acts as both a communicator and a protector, transmitting ancestral wisdom and warding off evil. The secrecy surrounding the flute is paramount. Only those who have been initiated, typically men who have proven their worth, are allowed to learn how to craft and play it. This restriction has historically contributed to tensions within the tribe, particularly regarding gender and power. Nonetheless, the flute remains a potent symbol of renewal and continuity. Its music is a reminder that even in the midst of hardship or disruption, the knowledge of the past can guide the present and future. Now that we've explored the narrative and ritual dimensions of the Jurupari myth, let's broaden our perspective by comparing it with similar myths of lost or hidden peoples around the world. While the specifics of each myth differ, many cultures have conceived of legendary figures who vanish only to return, often to restore order or impart sacred knowledge. One of the most common motifs in world mythology is that of the lost hero, or returning king. This motif is famously analyzed in the work of mythologist Joseph Campbell in his discussion of the monomyth, or hero's journey. In many cultures, the hero departs from society, often mysteriously or even under tragic circumstances, only to return at a time of crisis to restore balance and renew hope. For instance, in Arthurian legends, King Arthur is prophesied to return in Britain's hour of need. Similarly, in ancient Near Eastern mythology, figures such as Tammuz or Adonis die and are reborn, symbolizing the cyclical nature of fertility and renewal. Jurupari, too, embodies this cyclical return. His disappearance and later reappearance are not merely literal events. They symbolize the eternal rhythms of nature and the promise that even after loss, order can be restored. Beyond the lost hero motif, there is also the powerful narrative of the lost tribes, or hidden peoples. In Western thought, the myth of the 10 lost tribes of Israel has fascinated scholars, explorers, and adventurers for centuries. This myth suggests that after the Assyrian conquest, 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel disappeared from history, later emerging in distant lands. While modern genetic and archaeological research has debunked many of these claims, the allure of a lost people, a secret civilization waiting to be rediscovered, persists. Similarly, in the Amazon, the idea of uncontacted tribes, people who have chosen isolation from modern society, has captured the global imagination. Although these communities are very real and are fighting for survival against encroachment and exploitation, the notion of hidden people resonates with the same feelings of mystery and loss that the Jurupari myth evokes. In many parts of the world, from the remote hills of Papua New Guinea to the deserts of Australia, legends tell of tribes that have maintained their isolation for millennia. These myths, like that of Jurupari, are intertwined with the land itself. They evoke a sense of wonder at the diversity of human cultures and a deep respect for the idea that not all wisdom is to be found in the mainstream. Let's compare some specific elements. Birth by divine intervention. In many myths, heroes are born through extraordinary circumstances. For example, in Greek mythology, the birth of Dionysus is shrouded in divine mystery. Similarly, Jurupari's birth from QC after consuming a sacred fruit echoes the idea of a miraculous conception that marks him as a being of both human and divine realms. Absence and return. The motif of disappearance followed by a triumphant return is central to Jurupari's story. This is echoed in the cyclical death and rebirth of deities like Tammuz in Mesopotamia or even the expected return of King Arthur. These narratives share the belief that loss is not final and that renewal will come when it is most needed. Sacred instruments and rituals. The Jurupari flute, a central symbol in Amazonian initiation rituals, can be compared to other sacred objects around the world, such as the shofar in Jewish tradition or the ancient trumpets used in Mesoamerican rituals. These instruments not only create music, they act as conduits of divine power and memory, linking communities to their ancestors and to the natural world. Exclusivity of sacred knowledge. Like many secret cults and initiation rites found in global mythologies, the Jurupari cult restricts access to sacred knowledge. In some Native American traditions and in certain mystery schools of ancient Greece, only a select few were deemed worthy of the hidden teachings. This exclusivity reinforces the power of the myth as a tool for social cohesion and order. Transformation and social order. In the Jurupari myth, the hero's transformation, from a mysterious child into a powerful teacher and lawgiver, mirrors the process of initiation and the passage from childhood to adulthood. Similar rites of passage are found in diverse cultures around the world, from the vision quests of North American tribes to the coming-of-age rituals of ancient Egypt. These rituals function as social rites, marking not just personal growth but the continuation of cultural identity and order. Across cultures, myths such as that of Jurupari remind us that human societies have long used storytelling to explain the mysteries of existence, to instill values, and to navigate the complexities of life. Whether it's the promise of a lost king's return or the sacred sounds of a flute that connect people to their ancestors, these stories serve a common purpose: to bridge the gap between the human and the divine, the seen and the unseen. In an increasingly globalized world, the myth of Jurupari, and the many similar legends from around the world, challenges us to reconsider our own cultural narratives. They remind us that modernity is not the only measure of progress, and that there is wisdom to be found in the traditions of those who live in harmony with nature. These myths, whether of hidden tribes or returning heroes, speak to the heart of what it means to be human. To sum up, the myth of Jurupari is much more than a captivating legend from the depths of the Amazon. It is a living tradition that has shaped the spiritual and social fabric of indigenous communities for centuries. From his extraordinary birth and mysterious disappearance to his eventual return as both a teacher and lawgiver, Jurupari's story encapsulates the eternal cycle of loss and renewal. His myth not only explains the origins of sacred rituals, such as the secret men's initiation and the crafting of the sacred flute, but also reinforces the deep bond these communities share with their environment. When we compare Jurupari to other global myths of lost or hidden peoples, we see recurring themes that remind us of the cyclical nature of existence, the importance of exclusive sacred knowledge, and the universal human desire for renewal and order. Whether it is the promise of a returning king, the cyclical death and rebirth of ancient deities, or the legend of a lost tribe hidden away from modernity, these stories reveal that the essence of myth transcends geography and time. Today, as modern challenges threaten ancient cultures, from environmental destruction to cultural homogenization, the enduring power of myths like that of Jurupari is a clarion call for preservation and respect. They are not relics of a bygone era but active, dynamic forces that continue to influence how people live and understand their world. The story of Jurupari teaches us that even in the face of loss, there is always hope for renewal, that the voices of our ancestors, carried on sacred instruments and through ritual dance, can guide us back to balance and harmony. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of Amazonian mythology. If you enjoyed this exploration of the epic legend of Jurupari, please like, subscribe, and share this video with others interested in the mysteries of our past. And as always, leave your thoughts and questions in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective on how ancient myths continue to shape our modern world. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and remember, history is never really lost. It's just waiting to be unveiled.